Sarve Gauravan Vichar
Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Vichitra
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
So, Hare Krishna devotees, thank you so much for joining us today. And we will continue our reading of Prabhupada Lilamrita. And we're going to read chapter number 19. Last week we did it, but we did not complete it. So we will complete this chapter and then move to the next chapter. So Prabhupada ji has relocated from the loft on the lower Bowery to 26 Second Avenue. And this 26 Second Avenue was almost like a monastery type of thing where Prabhupada used to give the classes in the storefront, and there was a two-story apartment at the back where that was a residence, and a lot of people from Lower East Side were attending the programs. And the back of the storefront was labeled as a Matchless Gift, which was a gift shop earlier, and the back of the storefront was very nice courtyard where it was peaceful, lots of trees and garden and bird sanctuary. So it was really, really wonderful. And Prabhupada used to stay at the back of the building in a second story apartment where everybody used to come and meet Prabhupada, and they used to have question answers, discussions in Prabhupada's room upstairs. Lots of kirtans going in the storefront, and these kirtans were creative kirtans, which means that everybody who participated in the kirtan were allowed to bring their musical instruments, like harmonium, flute, guitar. So it was like innovative type of kirtan programs. But then still, if somebody went offbeat or not singing properly, Prabhupada used to correct also. So it was creative, but at the same time maintaining the authenticity of the kirtan. And the kirtans were new high, and everybody who came for the kirtan, they had ecstatic experience. It was some of these boys who came to the kirtan in the on the 26 Second Avenue were taking LSD. But then they said that, oh, this kirtan is much better than LSD, because they used to get excited and had a very good experience with the kirtan. So it was like a new LSD for them. Actually, it was replacing the LSD. And at the storefront, Prabhupada used to teach them everything about spiritual life. Prabhupada used to tell them about the kirtan, about the rules and regulations of the spiritual life, 4 regulative principles, and Bhagavad Gita classes used to be there 3 times a week. That was Prabhupada's routine. And Prabhupada used to cook very elaborately at the storefront, So he used to cook it in his apartment. Actually, there was no kitchen in the storefront, but every day about 10, 12 people used to come, and Prabhupada used to cook. And there was another devotee, his name was Keith. Keith was helping Srila Prabhupada in cooking. And the prasadam included like roti, dal, chawal, sabji, all those things, Prabhupada also taught them how to put the tilak on their forehead, and sometimes they used to have a discussion. Prabhupada used to put the tilak without a mirror, and then they used to ask him the question about how to put the tilak, and Prabhupada explained them how his Guru Maharaj explained him how to put a tilak without mirror. And then there was a ceremony, evening ceremony. Prabhupada used to offer dhoop, incense ceremony with the bell, arati ceremony actually. But then those people who were not aware of, they call it as a bell ceremony, and they used to participate in the bell ceremony also. Then this chapter of Bhagavad Gita, in Prabhupada Lilamrita, discusses some of the devotees who were there with Srila Prabhupada at the 26 Second Avenue. and one name was Don, who was residing there in the storefront. Actually, few devotees, a few of those young boys who did not have home to stay, they used to stay in the storefront, and some of them were using drugs also. So Prabhupada ji told them not to do this, but some of them, in spite of Prabhupada telling them, they used to do all those things. And then other name was Raphael. Raphael was also uh, he was coming there just for prasadam actually, and he was not interested in chanting, but he still continued to coming to the storefront. Then there was a Bill Epstein, and Bill Epstein was like he was liking the kirtan mostly, dancing in kirtan, and he also financially supported Srila Prabhupada. He donated Lakshmi also there. There was another person, Carl Youngson. He was there with Prabhupada since the lower Bauri on loft days, and he's the one who gave shelter to Srila Prabhupada when David Allen became very violent and started attacking Prabhupada. At that time, Carl took Srila Prabhupada to his home, and then Carl and Mike helped Srila Prabhupada find the 22nd Avenue. So he was there, and then he was his wife did not appreciate Srila Prabhupada's staying there, so they had to find 22nd Avenue place. And other followers, Carol Becker, James Green, Robert Nilsson, all these were other followers. The details are mentioned in this chapter. We did talk about that in previous class. So briefly, we'll touch base. Bruce Scarf, Chuck Barnett, Steve Gurano. So some of them were actually working. So they were working in at some place, and they used to collect some Lakshmi and donate it to Srila Prabhupada. So they were sincere followers of Srila Prabhupada. And as we learned last week, some of the followers' interviews are also there in this chapter. And we won't go into the detail again, but just this is one experience where there was a United Nations, the Vietnam War was going on, and Prabhupada and his followers, they went there for a kirtan program. They were not allowed to do kirtan, but then Srila Prabhupada asked everybody to chant there for a couple of hours. And then there was a representative of United Nations, Larry Bogart, and Prabhupada ji invited Larry Bogart to the storefront matchless gift shop. Prabhupada ji himself cooked elaborately for the arrival of Larry Bogart, but then there was uh, a misunderstanding somehow or other. Uh, Prabhupada ji had told Stanley that not to let anybody come upstairs to his apartment while he was doing cooking, and Stanley agreed upon. So he was stopping everybody from going out to the Srila Prabhupada's apartment. But then when Mr. Larry Bogart, who was a representative of United Nations, came, Stanley stopped him also from going to Prabhupada's room. So Prabhupada ji had cooked so much amount of food for Mr. Larry Bogart's arrival, and Stanley did not allow him to meet Srila Prabhupada. Larry Bogart waited there for at least 1.5 hours, and still Stanley did not allow him to go to meet Srila Prabhupada. So then Prabhupada ji was little disappointed with the Stanley's behavior. He said, "How did you do that?" Uh, so, so then Prabhupada ji chastised him also. Hare Krishna, Mamta Mataji, welcome.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry.
No problem, no problem. So Prabhupada ji was a little disappointed, but that's so. Then the next thing happened was this initiation part. One day while cooking prasadam, like Keith was helping Srila Prabhupada always in cooking, and he had learned the art of Vidura Prabhu. You have a hand raised?
Yes, Prabhuji, if you don't mind, can I ask one question?
Yes, Prabhu.
Like from the situation of Stanley, sometimes I relate myself also. Like maybe it's I think it's exaggeration of the mind, but still, like if we make some mistake or we think that we have made some mistake, then not to the extent of suicidal, but very very bad thoughts do come in place. How to tackle that? Sorry, you can answer this question later on also.
Yeah. So, in case of Stanley, Prabhupada chastised him, and then Stanley wanted to commit suicide. Actually, he said to Prabhupada that I want to commit suicide, and Prabhupada said, so he said, give me $50. So Prabhupada says the gasoline is not that expensive. You just need 50 cents to buy the gasoline. So Prabhupada ji said that indirectly said to Stanley that life is not that cheap to give away for such an insignificant cause of disappointment for little things. Life is very, very precious. It's not 50 cents or $50. Life is much more worth than that, and we should use it all for the service of Krishna. But actually, Srila Prabhupada ji always emphasized that even like when devotees used to come to Prabhupada and complain about so many things, and Prabhupada used to tell them that, okay, we are here for the higher purpose. We should not worry about the smaller things. Sometimes, obstacles do come in our path, but we should carry on our mission rather than. And Prabhupada's life was all about struggle and failures and continuous failures, but still Prabhupada never gave up. So, in our life, also spiritual life, sometimes Maya is very powerful. Mama Maya Durataya, Mama Evaye Prapadyante, Maya me tam tarantite. No matter how elevated we might be, we are, after all, in the material world. So something or other is going to happen one day or other. So rather than getting discouraged, we should continue our mission of serving Srila Prabhupada. One day will be really good, that you will feel very ecstatic, very elevated, and you feel like, okay, I should keep on doing. And then after a few days, then again, Maya will capture, and material mode of nature, Sattva Guna, Raja Guna, and Tama Guna, they are always going to be there. So when you are in Sattva Guna, you will feel better. But when Rajo and Tamo, one may commit something or other. What can we say, right? So we can't overcome Maya, three gunas. So only way we can survive through these three gunas is by surrender and sound vibration of Srila Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu say Cheto Darpanam Arjanam. So keep on chanting. No matter how low we feel, sometimes we feel very low. Is that right, Prabhu?
Yes.
That happens actually. It's a universal phenomenon. Like I usually, when chanting doesn't go well, like early in the morning, if I get up late and chanting doesn't go well, I feel very low that day. I said, why? But then again, Krishna is very merciful. He's in our heart. And after a few days, we forget that incident and we move on to the new one. And the thing cycle continues like that. So nothing to worry about. It's a normal and universal phenomenon. In Stanley's case also, same thing happened. Prabhupada didn't discourage him, but Prabhupada chastised him, said, okay, you should be careful about it, So like that. I hope that helps
Okay.
you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So Keith was helping Srila Prabhupada in cooking. And Keith one day asked Srila Prabhupada that, can I become your disciple? And that is what started with the initiation thing, So Prabhupada encouraged him to become a devotee. And Prabhupada said, oh, now you will be called as Krishna Das. That was the first devotee, initiated devotee in the ISKCON, America or North America or in anywhere outside India, actually. So then Then Prabhupada said, okay, let's conduct a initiation ceremony. Uh, and then he announced his plan for formal initiation ceremony. And Prabhupada said that, okay, for the initiation, everybody has to chant on the beads. Now, there are no beads available. Nowadays, we can buy all the beads, Japamala. But then that was not there at that time. So Prabhupada ji then introduced them how to strand the beads. So they went and bought the beads and put the string. They used to tie one end of the string to the window or somewhere, and then other end they used to pass the beads and make a string out of it, and then and the same with the kantimala also in the gala, in the neck, we wear the kantimala. So they were not there, so Prabhupada taught them how to make this one. Okay. So then the initiation ceremony was planned. But then some of the followers of Srila Prabhupada were not sure what this initiation mean. So some of them thought, oh, it's a very serious thing. And some of them, they took it very lightly. And like there is a discussion while they were stringing the beads in the courtyard. Then there's some discussion between them. Steve, Wally, and Howard talking about initiation ceremony. So Steve says here, Vidura Prabhu, you want to read the Steve's conversation about initiation?
No, Prabhuji. Steve, although I was already doing whatever Swamiji recommended, I sensed that initiation was a heavy commitment, and with my last strong impulses to remain completely independent, I hesitated to take initiation.
Then the Wally says further.
Yes, Walling, it's just a formality. You accept Swamiji as your spiritual master.
Uh, Howard,
Howard, what does that entail?
next one.
Wally, nobody's very sure. In India, it's a standard practice. Don't you think you want to take him as a spiritual master? Howard, I don't know. He would seem to be a good spiritual master, whatever that is. I mean, I like him and his teachings a lot. So I guess, in a way, he's already my spiritual master. I just don't understand how it would change the situation. Wally, neither do I. I guess it doesn't. It just it's just a formality.
So they were not serious about it. They said, okay, what is this initiation and all? But they were not sure also. But then some of them were having these questions. And now he said at length, I will tell you what is meant by initiation. So they went to Srila Prabhupada and asked him. The Prabhupada said, initiation means that the spiritual master accepts the student and agrees to take charge, and student accepts the spiritual master and agrees to worship him as God. Srila Prabhupada paused. No one spoke anything. Any questions? And when there were none, he got up and walked out. So Srila Prabhupada says you should treat the spiritual master as a god, and then they just Prabhupada left actually. The devotees were stunned what they just heard him say. For the weeks he stressed that anyone claims to be God, he should be considered as a dog. And now he's asking us to treat him like a god. So Wally said, my mind just blown. Everybody's mind is blown, Howard said. Swamiji just dropped a bomb. What is the bomb? That the good guru to be worshipped as God. And so it was like a stunning, because they were all thinking that God is something higher than a guru. So everybody was surprised. And then they went back to temple and consulted Howard, Wally and Howard, and together they went to Srila Prabhupada. And they asked the question, Swamiji, does what you told us this morning mean we are supposed to accept spiritual master to be God? They revealed their mind to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada said, that means he is due the same respect as God, being a representative of God. Then he is not God, Holly said. Srila Prabhupada said, no, God is God. The spiritual master is his representative. Therefore, he is as good as God because he can deliver God to sincere disciple. Is that clear? And then everybody was like satisfied with the answer. So now next day was Janmashtami, and this is September 8th, 1976. The year before, on the Janmashtami day, which is the day after actually Janmashtami is Prabhupada's appearance day, if you remember. And we celebrate Prabhupada Vyas Puja on that day, which is this is the Janmashtami day. And Prabhupada said, okay, we will have initiation ceremony on Janmashtami day. So that day, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. On the Janmashtami day, year after celebrating Lord Krishna's birthday aboard on Jaladuta, Prabhupada led his small group of devotees in chanting, scripture reading, fasting, and feasting. And the next day was planned for initiation, which is the Prabhupada's appearance day, Vyas Puja day. So at that time, Prabhupada all the time was giving classes from Bhagavad Gita, which was written, translated by Radhakrishnan. But then on this first time, Janmashtami day, the disciples requested that can he read and give the class from the Bhagavad Gita manuscript, which Prabhupada had typed himself. So Prabhupada was, that was the first time Prabhupada gave a class from his own manuscript of Bhagavad Gita on that Janmashtami day. All along he had used, because there was no English translation available, so he used Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan's Bhagavad Gita. And then the next day was the preparation for so on that day they started preparation for the next day's initiation ceremony. So they spent hours stringing the red wooden beads and chanting Hare Krishna mantra for each bead as a part of devotional service. So while they're stringing the beads, everybody was chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra at that time. And each mantra they recited on all 108 beads, complete one round of chanting. And then Prabhupada said that, introduced them and saying that, okay, devotees in India, they chant how many rounds? So 64 rounds. So when Srila Prabhupada said 64 rounds, the Western devotees were worried about it. So then Prabhupada said, okay, can you do 32 rounds? That was also not possible for them. Then Prabhupada then eventually set 16 rounds as the minimum daily commitment. So because Western devotees were they were hesitant. They said, okay, we are so busy or doing so many things, so we won't be able to chant 64 rounds, which is almost, if you chant 64 rounds, it takes about 8 hours. Has anybody tried 64 here? Sujata Mataji, Vidura Prabhu, Mamta Mataji?
No, Prabhu. Not even up to, yeah.
Vidura Prabhu tried 64 ever?
No, Prabhu.
Must try. Mamta Mataji?
Yes, no, Prabhuji, no.
Must give a try one day. And it's a really amazing experience, actually. I tried a couple of times. It's really like when, especially you're in Dhama, Holy Dham, you get a lot of time. I went to Vrindavan Parikrama, and it was really good time chanting all the time. Like it took longer than 8 hours for me to finish 64. Some people can finish in 8 hours, but for me it took a little longer, about 10, 11 hours or so. But anyhow, so Prabhupada then compromised for 64. Instead of 64, Prabhupada said, okay, you can do 16 rounds minimum, which takes almost a couple of hours for all of us to finish. Now, preparation for the next day, initiation ceremony was going on, bead stringing was going on, everybody was chanting. And you see, this is Janmashtami day. So Prabhupada said, okay, everybody is going to fast on the Janmashtami day. Now, these devotees were not used to fasting, but still they fasted until midnight. And Prabhupada gave them a freedom. Okay, if you feel hungry, then you can take some fruits also. And then on the day of Janmashtami day, midnight at 11 o'clock, and they made Srila Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada ji then cooked prasadam for everyone up, because after midnight there's a prasadam. So Prabhupada ji, while serving the prasad to everybody, then Prabhupada ji narrated the story of Lord Krishna's birth to everybody. And then how in Vrindavan they celebrate Lord Krishna's birthday, appearance day. That is, he described that. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So we are reading Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita. You can join us. Srila Prabhupada. We read Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita chapter. It's the pastime of Srila Prabhupada. So we read a few chapters. So you can follow us on the screen also. So Prabhupada ji is in America, and they are celebrating first Janmashtami in America. And this is in 1966. So this is on September 1966. And some of the devotees are joining us online also. So we are talking to them as well. So then Prabhupada ji, on the day after Janmashtami, then initiation ceremony was planned. And this is the Michael Grant. So all these American devotees, when they joined Srila Prabhupada 1965-66, their experience about Diksha ceremony, initiation ceremony. So it's mentioned here. Vidura Prabhu, you want to read initiation about experience by the Michael Grant?
No problem. Michael Grant. I first heard about the initiation just one day before it was to take place. I had been busy with my music and hadn't been attending. I was walking down Second Avenue with one of the prospective initiates, and he mentioned to me that there was going to be something called an initiation ceremony. I asked what it was about, and he said, all I know is it means that you accept the spiritual master as God. This was a big surprise to me, and I hardly knew how to take it, but I didn't take it completely seriously. And the way it was mentioned to me in such an offhand way made it seem not very important. He asked me very casually whether I was going to be involved, and I also, being very casual about it, said, well, I think I will. Why not? I will give it a try.
Mhm. So this is a Michael Grant, American person who helped Srila Prabhupada to find a space, the first temple space, which is the second 26 Second Avenue. These Americans, some of them are taking drugs actually, LSD. They don't know anything about Krishna consciousness, but they just met Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was so kind, feeding them, giving food, kirtan, prasadam. So they were ready to listen to Srila Prabhupada. And there was a first Diksha ceremony was going to get happen on the day after the initiation ceremony. Now, Mike Grant has a girlfriend, okay, and her name is Jen. Jen, Venkata Prabhu, you want to read? Venkata Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji. Initiation. Jan didn't think she would make it an obedient disciple, and initiation sounded frightening. She liked the Swami, especially cooking with him, but it was Mike who convinced her he was going, so she should come along with him.
So Mike and Jan, They are really interesting personality in the history of ISKCON actually. And I'm going to tell you more about these two people. Mike and Jan. Mike then became a Mukunda after the Diksha ceremony, and Jan became Janaki. And they are the one who started quite a few centers across America and other parts of the world. These are the American disciples, you know. There's a really interesting story of Mike and Janaki. We're going to talk more about it. Then Carl Jungsen understood the initiation as a serious commitment involving strict lifestyle changes and responsibilities. So some people did understand and they were hesitant to take initiation, Diksha. Though feeling less involved after Swamiji's move to Second Avenue, Carl decided to attend initiation ceremony. And then there were other people like Bill Epstein. He took initiation casually, seeing it as a part of Swami's scene. Carl Baker, he felt no desire for initiation and assumed the Swami wouldn't initiate women. And then Robert Nilsson, he helped occasionally but stayed distant and wasn't part of regular scene. James Green felt unworthy but went along with initiation when prompted by Swamiji. Then Stanley, fully committed, sought his mother's approval and was ready for initiation. This is the same Stanley, right? Whom Srila Prabhupada chastised. But then he took initiation. Then Steve, he wanted more time to consider initiation. Keith is the one who was helping Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada also formally gave him the name Krishnadas, but he was in the hospital, admitted. And then Bruce attended only a short time, so it was too early for his initiation. Chuck missed the initiation due to being a week-long vacation. In this way, quite a few people, there are about 11 people, Americans, all Americans, some of them are taking drugs now. Prabhupada initiated them. And then, so first Prabhupada gave a lecture on initiation. Then there was a fire sacrifice ceremony. And then Prabhupada chanted on each person who was getting initiated. 11 people got initiated first time in America. And Prabhupada gave them, chanted on their beads. And then he gave them the spiritual names. You know, after taking Diksha, then everybody gets a name. Like it's called second birth. So they were prepared a sacrificial arena with the bricks. And actually, this is a storefront, right? So in that, they were doing the fire sacrifice. A lot of smoke was coming out of it. And there was banana, butter, sesame seeds, barley, grains, all kind of things, you know. So all the 11 initiate, they sat around the fire sacrifice area. And then they performed the fire sacrifice. And Prabhupada guided them throughout the ceremony. And Prabhupada also guided them how to apply the tilak, you know, like Vaishnava tilak. So then Prabhupada taught them the prayer. So first time Prabhupada Pranam Mantra was introduced here. At this time it was Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. This was the only one introduced to them. So when initiate devotees, they took the Diksha, then they offered this Pranam Mantra to Prabhupada, and then Prabhupada gave them a Diksha. And this all lasted for over an hour. And Prabhupada gave them the neck bead also. And Prabhupada said, this is like a dog collar. You see this neck bead? You wear the neck bead? So this is Prabhupada said, this is a dog. Dog means we are dogs of Krishna. Prabhupada explained to them that, okay, when you go to the streets, you see the stray dogs, they don't have the collar. So then the municipality vehicle will come and take away all the dogs who don't have a collar. But when they see a collar with a number there, they know this is a pet dog. So this belongs to some owner. They won't take him away. Similarly, Prabhupada said that this neck bead, Tulsi Mala in the neck, is just like telling us that, okay, we are Krishna devotee. So then Yamraj will not touch you. Only Vishnu Duta can take you. Yamuduta cannot touch you like that. So this is what Srila Prabhupada explained to everybody. So the initiation was there. And then the new names were given to all the people. And these are very famous people in ISKCON's movement. So Howard became Hayagriva, Wali became Umapati, Bill Epstein became Ravindra Swarup. So Ravindra Swarup Prabhu is still there, is a wonderful devotee. Carl became Karlapati, James became Jagannath, Mike became Mukunda. And this Mukunda now is sannyasi, is called Mukunda Swami. He's very, very popular, very, very, we've done a lot of work. Then Jane became Janaki. So this Jane and Mike, they were boyfriend, girlfriend for a long time. And then later on, we'll learn more about them, but they are very important persons in the ISKCON's growth. Then Roy became Rai Rama, and Stanley became uh, what is that? Strihadisha. That was the names. And then others. There was another Stanley from a Brooklyn boy with a job, and Janos, a student from Montreal. Both of them had peripheral relationship with Swami, and they appeared late night, and they took initiation that night, and they took initiation from Swami, receiving the name Satyavrat and Janardana. So in this way, there was a fire sacrifice, and everybody offered the homage into the fire sacrifice. And then the smoke was really big smoke. When they offered the banana and ghee, it was like a very big smoke in that small place. Nobody had experienced the eyes were tearing. Everybody's eyes had a lot of because of the smoke. And Srila Prabhupada then jokingly said that, oh, you might have to call the fire brigade now because so much smoke was there in that small building. But Srila Prabhupada, after that initiation, Prabhupada is now how old? 70 years old man. He's giving the diksha to everybody, and then he himself cooked for everybody, because after diksha, then you have to give the prasadam. Right? So he cooked for everybody, for all the people. So there were about 30 people or so in the ceremony. And this was the significant milestone in history of ISKCON. This was the first ever initiation ceremony happened outside India, actually. So it was really milestone. And most of the people, they were not knowing what they were doing, actually. So then Srila Prabhupada, next day after the initiation ceremony, actually before the initiations, before that also, next day, on the day after the Janmashtami day, when they took initiation, many of the devotees who took initiation, they did not offer Guru Dakshina to Srila Prabhupada because they didn't know. Normally, after taking Diksha, then you offer Guru Dakshina. But they didn't offer anything. They just paid homage to Srila Prabhupada. And actually, some of them, they came to know about the regulative principles after taking Diksha. Oh, they took Diksha, and the Prabhupada said, this is your name. And now you don't eat meat, no gambling, no smoking, no drinking alcohol, no taking drugs, no illicit activities. And they were not sure. Oh, we were never told about this. So this was like that, those days, first day, first batch of initiation devotees. But then everybody agreed to take the Diksha. And then the morning after the Diksha ceremony, then Mukunda and Janaki, who was Mike and Jan, they visited Srila Prabhupada, and then Srila Prabhupada then called them and by their name, initiated names, said Mukunda and Janaki, come here. They were Mike and Jan, and then they were being boyfriend and girlfriend. So Prabhupada said, oh, you remember you took a vow that not to have relationship outside marriage life, the boy and girl. So can you now get married? And so then they said, okay, we will get married. So Srila Prabhupada arranged the wedding of Mukunda and Janaki. And this is a historical wedding, actually. This is the first ever wedding in ISKCON, where Srila Prabhupada get married these American disciples in a Vedic way. So now this is the 2 days after the initiation. For the initiation, Prabhupada had cooked elaborately. Now they're getting married, so Prabhupada has to cook more food for them, right? So it was set days after, 2 days after, and Prabhupada planned a big feast. You see, Prabhupada ji is helping them to how to cook vegetarian food. Now, Janaki's sister, Joan, was the one who attended the ceremony. Now, this is a very nice experience of Joan here. Sujata Mataji, you want to read?
Yes, there was a correction. Good. Little did I know what kind of wedding it would be. All I knew was that they had met as Swami and were taking Sanskrit from him as well as attending his small storefront temple on Second Avenue. When I met the Swami, he was sitting beside the window in his front room, bathed in sunlight, surrounded by pots of prasadam, which he was distributing the devotees who were sitting around him against him against the wall. It was a follower of microbiotics and not so eager for taking this Monday meal.
Thank you, Mataji. So here is the experience. Now, Srila Prabhupada always, his quality was that he was always serving food, prasadam to everybody. All the time, whenever you went there, Prabhupada is serving prasadam. All these hippies. So Joan is the sister of Janaki, who is getting married. And she, as soon as she enters the storefront, what does she see? Prabhupada is distributing prasadam to everybody. And then she describes her experience. When I entered the room, Swami said, "Who is this?" And Mukunda said, "This is Janaki's sister." So Janaki and Mukunda is getting married, and the only person from their family is Joan. That's it, nobody else. So Prabhupada himself is conducting all the ceremony for their wedding. Swami said, "Oh, where is Oregon?" She's attending from Oregon. Mukunda said, "It's 3,000 miles away." New York and Oregon, 3,000, so almost 6,000 kilometers on the other side of United States. And he asked, "Oh, coming from so far, very nice. And when will the other members of family arrive?" Then Mukunda said, then Joan said, "I'm the only one who is attending for the wedding, Swamiji." He said, "Never mind. It is very nice that you have come here. Please sit down and take some prasadam." So now Srila Prabhupada is serving prasadam to him. So Joan is saying, Mamta Mataji, you want to read the next part?
Yes, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
He offered me some dal, a rather moist sabji, yogurt, salad, and chapatis. But because I was a devotee of microbiotics, and all of this prasadam was very unpalatable to me. Practically speaking, it was sticking in my throat the whole time. But I remember looking over at the radiant and beautiful person who was so eager for me to take this prasadam that he has prepared. So I took it all. But in my mind, I decided it would be the last time I would take this luncheon with this devotees.
So she was following certain diet, macrobiotic diet. So she didn't like this roti, dal, chawal, chapati. Americans, they have never tried roti, dal, chapati. So Prabhupada is feeding them all this Indian food, especially Bengali food, right? Prabhupada is teaching them how to cook the Indian food. And she said, "This is the last time I'm going to eat this food. I'm not going to eat anymore." Right? So, but then Prabhupada is very kind and feeding them with love. So she said, "Okay, I'll take the food." But then there is the next part of it. At any rate, somehow I finished the meal, and Swamiji, who had been looking over at me, said, "You want more?" She doesn't want to eat anything. Now Swamiji is serving her more. "You want more?" And I said, "No, thank you, Swamiji. I'm so full. It is very nice. But I can't take any more." So finally, the prasadam was finished. And then they're all getting up to clean. And Swamiji said to Mukunda, that he wanted to see Mukunda, Janki, and myself for making preparations for the wedding next day. So then Joan, Janki, and Mukunda, they went to see Prabhupada. So when they were all sitting in the room with him, the Swamiji reached over to a corner. There's a big pot, crystallized sugar syrup sticking to the outside. So this glass jar, Prabhupada used to have always this glass jar in his room. And in that glass jar, he used to have gulab jamuns. Anybody coming in his room used to give them gulab jamuns. Like, rasgulla you call it in Bengali, right? So, rasgulla. So Prabhupada he said, and then he was offering that rasgulla to Jen. So she has already eaten so much food. She is no more interested in eating anything. And Prabhupada is saying that you eat one more gulab jamun now. So she said, oh, this is supposed to be the something French, peace de resistance, but I can't possibly take any more. But he reached out his hand into the pot and anyway pulled up a huge round dripping gulab jamun. Like a big one, right? And he said, oh, take this one. And he make me hold out my hand and take it. Well, by the time I finished the gulab jamun, I was fully convinced that this would be the last time I ever come there. So she didn't want to eat that gulab jamun, but Prabhupada somehow or other forced her to eat the gulab jamun. They used to be called ISKCON bullets, Gulab jamun used to be called ISKCON bullets. There was a name given to it, like a bullet, as soon as you eat, then you go to sleep. So they used to call ISKCON bullets. Prabhupada served her the gulab jamun like that. And then the wedding ceremony was, so then Prabhupada explained her, Juan, about the wedding ceremony. Then he began explaining how the Vedic tradition, the woman's side of the family made a lavish arrangement for the wedding. And since I was the only member of the family who had come to assist, I should come the next day and help him to make wedding feast, because Prabhupada had planned a big feast, variety of food. So next day morning at 9, while Janki was decorating the room for the fire sacrifice, stringing leaves and flower garlands across the top of the room, I went to see Swamiji. Now Swamiji is going to ask her to cook. Now Joan has never cooked food in her lifetime, right? So when I arrived, he immediately sent me out for the shopping with a list, 5 or 6 items. One of those items was not available anywhere in the market, although I spoke to many shopkeepers. And then she came back and he asked me, you have obtained all the items on the list? And I said, well, everything except the one. He said, what is that? And said, well, no one knows what the tumor is. Tumor is, what is tumor? Maybe turmeric, but I don't know. So that was the item Prabhupada had asked. Then he had me wash my hands and sat me down in front room on the floor with 5-pound bag of flour and a pound of butter and a pitcher of water. And he asked me to look at me and said, can you make a medium soft dough? So now Prabhupada is saying, can you cook a little bit? So make a dough for, so Prabhupada wanted to make kachoris, So he said, can you help? So Joan replied, do you mean pastry or pea crust or short crust, dough or pasta, something like that. So Prabhupada said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 25. So Prabhupada said, you are 25 and you can't make a medium soft dough? So Prabhupada is chastising her. He says, it is a custom in India that every girl from the age of 5 years is very experienced in making dough. But never mind, I will show you. So Prabhupada ji taught her how to make a dough. So Prabhupada is saying that all the girls in India were taught from the age of 5. But then nowadays it's different, right? So everybody doesn't know cooking. So then wedding. So he very deftly emptied the bag of flour and with the his fingertips, and cut in butter until the mixture had a consistency of coarse meal. Then he made me a well in the center of the flour and poured in right amount of water and very deftly and expertly kneaded into a velvety, smooth, medium soft dough. He then brought in a tray of cooked potatoes, mashed them with his fingertips, and began to sprinkle in the spices. So Prabhupada is making kachori dough. So potato is there. So he showed me how to make and form potato kachoris, which are fried Indian pastries with spiced in potatoes. Prabhupada used to like kachoris. So he used to like. So from 11 until 5 that afternoon, I sat in one room making potato kachoris. The person who has never made any food in her lifetime, now 11 o'clock to 5 o'clock. So she's making kachoris all the time, right? Meanwhile, in the course of same afternoon, Swamiji brought in 15 other special vegetarian dishes, each one in large enough quantity for 40 persons. So while she's making kachori, Prabhupada cooked 15 other varieties of items in that short period of time for how many people? 40 people, single-handedly, you see. So Prabhupada is cooking single-handedly 15 variety of food items in less than 6-7 hours. So he had made them single-handedly in his small narrow kitchen. So how would he do that? 15 varieties of items in less than 6-7 hours. Prabhupada cooked for 40 people food. And then it was rather hot that afternoon and I was perspiring. I asked Swamiji, may I please have a glass of water? He picked his hand around the door and said, go and wash your hands. And I immediately did. And when I returned, Swamiji had a glass of water for me. He explained to me that while preparing this food for offering to the Supreme Lord, one should not think of eating or drinking anything. So after drinking the glass of water, I went in and washed my hands and sat down. So here Srila Prabhupada is teaching the etiquettes of devotional service. When we are serving Krishna, we should not think of food or drink. And then Prabhupada usually if you eat any food, you take a shower and come back, actually. Because if you have eaten a food, you should not go on the altar also. Or you should not touch the deities. You take a shower, or if you go to the washroom, you take a shower. If you eat anything, you take a shower. And while doing the deity worship, you're not supposed to drink or eat anything, actually. Even you drink water, then you have to take a shower. That is what the customs are. So Prabhupada said, okay, instead of taking shower, you just go over and wash your hands and come back, which is as good as taking a shower, because there were no facilities available, right? Because there was like only one room where Srila Prabhupada is staying and they're having everything in that room. So then about 2 in the afternoon, I said, Swamiji, may I have a cigarette? So this, so because she doesn't know, she's American and she doesn't know any regulative principle. So Prabhupada has not told her about the 4 regulative principles. So then he said, go and wash your hands. And so when she came back, Prabhupada told her about the 4 regulative principles. No smoking, no drinking. So she said, okay, I'm not going to smoke today then. And then she continued making kachoris. And around 3:30 or 4 o'clock, it was extremely warm in the room. And as Swamiji was bringing in one of his preparations, I was wiping my arm and hand across my forehead. So now she is perspiring, right? And she's using her fingers. So Prabhupada stops her and says, go and wash your hands. Why? Because that food is now going to get contaminated, is going to get offered to Krishna. So please go and wash hands again. And again I did so. And upon returning, he had moistened paper towel from me. He explained that cooking for Krishna required certain standards of cleanliness and purity that were different than the ones I was accustomed to. So here Prabhupada is telling about deity worship, like he's teaching it that we should be very clean in mind and clean in body while doing the deity worship. So then there was a wedding ceremony next day, and about 30 people attended, and the room was very nicely decorated. This is 2 days after Janmashtami and the Diksha ceremony. huh? And then feast was very lavish food, and everybody attended the ceremony. About 30-40 people attended the ceremony. And then Janaki, who is getting married, Janaki said to Swamiji, Janaki is saying that, uh, Sujata Mataji, so you want to read?
Swamiji's made of saris, and he said it should be made of silk. I asked him what color, and he said that. So Mukunda bought me innocent some very nice ring.
So thank you, Mataji. So Srila Prabhupada said that girls for the wedding should wear the silk sari, and it should be the red in color. That is what he said. And then next day was the wedding. Mukunda then repeated after Swami. So there is the wedding is going on, and Srila Prabhupada is himself. He's the one who is cooking. He's the one who is conducting their wedding ceremony for them, because these are American disciples. They don't know anything. So Prabhupada did the fire sacrifice. They did the fera. What do you call it in Bengali? Yeah, so they did the fera, circumambulation, and then Prabhupada asked Mukunda and Janaki to exchange the flower garlands, and then he asked him to put the sindur, vermilion, and then Prabhupada asked Mukunda to repeat, say, I accept Janaki as my wife, and I shall take the charge of her throughout both our lives. We shall live together peacefully in Krishna consciousness, and there will never be any separation. So there is no chance of divorce, Prabhupada said. And then Prabhupada returned to Janaki and said, will you accept Shriman Mukunda Das Brahmachari as your wife, a life companion? Will you serve him always and help him execute Krishna conscious activities? And Janaki replied, yes, I accept Mukunda as my husband throughout my life. There shall never be any separation between us, either in happiness or distress. I shall serve him always, and we shall live together peacefully in Krishna consciousness. So in this way, Prabhupada, this is the first wedding ceremony Prabhupada ji conducting here in America. And then Prabhupada ji asking them to take the vows and serve Krishna all the time. And then Prabhupada, along with his few helpers, they cleaned the whole area after the ceremony. He was satisfied. He was introducing some of the major elements of Krishna consciousness mission. He had initiated disciples, he had married them, he had feasted the public with Krishna Prasadam. If I had means, he said, I would do it, major festivals like this, every single day. So Prabhupada ji had this desire to serve them. Here is a picture of Mukunda and Janaki with Mike and Jan. They got married and became Mukunda and Janaki. Mukunda is now Mukunda Swami. He's taken a sannyas, and Janaki Mataji is still there. And here is their daughter Saraswati. Then the Mukunda and Janaki, they got a daughter. Mukunda and Janaki then went to UK actually, and they established the temple. The whole ISKCON in UK was established by Mukunda and Janaki and then few others. And here is one video actually where Janaki is remembering about Srila Prabhupada's remembrance here. Oops, advertisement.
From nutritious feed to 7 times omega. Enjoy the goodness of Nature Egg Omega Plus eggs. A lot goes into a little at Burnbrae Farms.
Oh my gosh.
Keep your business working even when you can't.
Oh my gosh, these advertisements are...
With flexible health and life insurance from Canada Life.
Okay, here is the video now. Can you hear Prabhu video? Prabhuji, can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very nice interview. This is Janaki Mataji.
We were planning on going to India. We had our visas, passports, raring to go. He came home and said, you won't believe this, but there's a Swami living a block down the Bowery from us. and he's giving classes. And so I asked him once, how do I quit smoking? How do I quit doing this or that? And he said, you don't stop, you replace all the time. So that was his concept. I will give you something that will fill you up so much more than what you are currently absorbing. I will give you something that will take all of those spaces inside of you, and you won't even bother with that nonsense before. His job with us was so huge. I honestly don't know. I know how he did it. It was Krishna. It was Krishna. He was such a devout follower of Krishna, his spiritual master, the disciplic succession. He was so tried and true that it must have given him energy and purpose that none of us were used to. It was just impossible. His task was impossible, and he did it anyway. It's interesting that one hearing this story would say he was like a father, because on his first trip to San Francisco, I was massaging his feet one day, and I asked him, do you have any children? And just without a hiccup of missing a beat, he said, you're not my child. You were my child. And I believed him. He was more of a father than I had experienced ever. And his love for us was so true and so wonderful. And he was so funny and sweet and knowledgeable and forgiving and guiding us in nothing but a good way. And we were just captured with love for him. It was just breathtaking how much you could love another human being. I was married, but this was a different kind of love. This was just heavenly love. Truly blessed, yes, truly blessed.
So that was Mukunda and Janaki. Very nice videos, lots of videos about Srila Prabhupada online. But anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. We finished the 19th chapter, actually, of Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita.